Hello everyone, it's Benny, and welcome to the 2D platformer tutorial series. In this series, we're going to be making a 2D platformer, much like the one you see here, from scratch. That means we're going to be creating the graphics, we're going to be writing the code, we're going to be designing the sound effects, we're going to be designing the levels. Who knows, we might even create some music for this game, if I can ever compose a tutorial track I'm happy with. But yeah, we're just going to be doing everything from scratch, and that's what this whole series is going to be about. In fact, the only thing we're not going to be creating from scratch is the game engine, and that's only because I've already made a whole bunch of videos on how to create that sort of thing. But more on that in a moment. In this particular video of the series, we're going to be doing two things. We're going to talk about how to set up the project so that, well, we can get started with this. And we're also going to go over some frequently asked questions. But before we get into that, there's something you should be aware of. This series is going to be done a little bit differently than all the other series I've done so far. This one's going to be designed around slightly longer videos, and possibly even doing some of the videos live. So, as a result, in this video, and the rest of the videos in this series, I'm going to be having time tags in the video description, so that you can easily skip to parts that you may particularly be interested in, and just ignore the rest, if you so choose. You can watch all of it if you like, but for those of you who are just interested in that one particular subject, or if you want to go back and look at that one particular part of the video, that's for you. That's what those are for. So just look at the time tags, you can click on them, go wherever you like. So with that, I'm going to start off with the FAQ, and as you'll see in the description, there are time tags for particular questions you might be interested in, so feel free to just skip to the ones you're just interested in. Or if you don't care about any of them, feel free to click on the time tag, skipping straight to the setup part of it, and moving on. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump into the FAQ. So, since I already brought it up, for question 1, I'm going to answer, why aren't you covering the game engine part of it? I mean, after all, I'm covering everything else. Why not just go the full way, do everything from scratch, including the game engine? And the only reason I'm not doing the game engine from scratch is because I've already made tons of videos on how to make game engines and parts of game engines from scratch. I have the 3D game engine series, which makes it from scratch. I have physics engine series, or the audio series, which makes parts of game engine from scratch. And if that's not enough, if you just want to know how this specific game engine is made, even that, I have a live stream series where I made about the first half of this game engine, well, from scratch in a live stream, and that would be the Dare Engine live stream if you're interested in that. So, it's been so thoroughly covered that at this point, it would just be redundant to show how to do it again. So that's the only reason I'm not doing that. Again, if you're interested, there's all those series, but I'm not going to be covering it in this particular series. Now, I know that after hearing that, some of you are going to be asking question 2. What about things that this engine, the Dare engine, does that I haven't covered in our video series? And that's true. There are some things the Dare engine does that I have not made any video on my channel telling you how to do. But the thing is, most of them not all of them, but most of them really are just not much of a step from something I have covered. Like, for example, the Dare engine uses 2D lighting, and that's something I have not covered in any video on my channel thus far. But the thing is, I have made videos covering how to do 3D lighting. So really, if you not do 3D lighting, but just ignore one of the dimensions, there you go, you have 2D lighting. So, you see what I mean? It's just a lot of things, not that much of a stretch. Now, there are a few things that are a stretch, and some of those, like acceleration or spatial structures, like quad trees and such, I do plan to cover in future videos. But for the rest of them, what I'm planning to do is at the end of the series, I'm going to take a bit of a poll on various topics that this engine does that you all might be interested in after seeing them in action. And if there's enough interest, I might make a couple bonus videos showing you how to do those things. And even if I don't, the Dare engine is documented and open source, so even if I don't end up making a video on the topic you're interested in, you have working and documented source code showing you how to do it, so hopefully that won't end up happening too much, but if it does, hopefully that's not too bad. Question 3. How will live videos be handled? And I think I should start this question by saying that every video in the series, regardless of whether it's live or not, every single video will be uploaded to my channel and added to the playlist for this series, just like any other normal video. So there won't be any, oh, this video was live and you weren't there, so you don't get to see it. No. There won't be any of that. Every video will be in the playlist and viewable like normal. So, with that out of the way, how will live videos work? In the event that I decide I'm going to do one of the videos live, I should hopefully be posting something on my channel, letting you know, hey, a live video is going to be going on at this date and time, so you can attend if you're interested. I might not be able to do that, but hopefully I'll be able to. And then if you come at that date and time, you'll be able to go to my channel, and you'll see the video being played and recorded live. And you can post comments, and I'll be able to see the comments you post, and we'll be able to interact while the video is being made. And I think a lot of interesting things could happen there. We could, for example, if you have a question, something's not working for you, well, I don't know if I'll be able to answer that specifically, but, it'll be live interaction, so hopefully it'll be a little more of an engaging experience than me sitting here lecturing you while I make this game and show you how to do it. And that's the whole idea of the live video. Not all of the videos are going to be live, and I should mention right here and now, that I'm not even sure I'll be able to do any of the videos live. It's something I'd like to do, but, well, live videos require lots of time and coordination that I won't necessarily have. If I can do some of them live, I will, but won't necessarily be able to do any. So yeah, that's how they'll work, if they happen. And yeah. Question 4. How are all these different topics being handled? I mean, we are covering a lot of different material in the series. We're not just writing out the code like in a lot of my video series. We're also going to be creating graphics, and sound effects, and designing levels, and possibly even composing a piece of music to go with our game. So, we have a lot of different things to cover here. How's that going to be handled? And in general, what I'm going to be doing is doing this in sort of sections. We'll have the first section focusing on the code, then another section sort of focusing on the graphics, another section sort of focusing on the sound, another section sort of focusing on level design, and finally, possibly a section focusing on the music. And something I'd like to mention here is these sections aren't strict. So just because we're in the code section, doesn't mean we're going to be spending all the time doing code. Just most of the time doing code. And it's not necessarily most by a lot. I mean, the first thing we're going to do in the series, most likely, even though it is the code section, is create some graphics so we can see what our code is doing. So, yeah. The sections aren't very strict, but they're just sort of general guidelines about what we're focusing on at each point in this series. And the order of this might change a bit. I don't think it will, but it might, so I just wanted to mention that. Final question before we do setup. What do I need to follow along? And you really don't need a lot. As far as skills, I'm not expecting you to be an expert going into here. You really don't need a whole bunch of skills. I mean, I'm expecting you to be reasonably competent with using a computer, but I'm not expecting you to really know anything about creating graphics or sounds or designing levels or any of that stuff. The only thing I am going to ask that you have before you follow along is at least some basic programming skills. Not a lot, not nearly the level that I ask in some of my other series, but just some basic stuff, because that's something I don't think I could effectively teach while still keeping the series about the platformer, you know? So, that's the only reason I'm asking that. But other than that, you really don't need any special skills to follow along. As far as software, I am going to ask you a few things up front. Not a lot, again. Although we are going to be adding a few more to this as they become relevant. But really, I'm not asking you to have a lot. I am going to ask you to have some sort of graphics editor program. And there's a few options for this. I'm going to be using the program GIMP. It's completely free, it's open source, and it runs on Windows, Mac, and Linux, so that's a very good option, I think. If you don't want to use GIMP for whatever reason, other options are Paint.net, which is a free program, but it only runs on Windows. And there's also the famous Photoshop, if you want, but that's not free, and it runs on Windows and Mac, but I don't believe it runs on Linux. It might, but I don't think it does. So, yeah, those are really the big options there. As for code, we're going to be writing in the Java programming language, because the Dare engine uses the Java programming language, and we're using the Dare engine. So I'm going to ask you to have Java installed on your computer, as well as the JDK. And other than that, some IDE for Java. And there's a few options here again. I'm going to be using Eclipse, which is free, open source, and runs on all platforms. But other options are things like NetBeans and IntelliJ IDE, which are also free, open source, and cross-platform programs. So really, take your pick. I'm going to be using Eclipse again, so that's probably going to be the easiest to follow along with. But you should be able to use just about anything you want. This is not a huge deal here. And that's really all you need to follow along. So, as I've mentioned a couple times, we're going to be using the Dare engine to create this game. So, I'll leave a link to this page in the video description. And it's really simple. Just take one of the downloads. It really doesn't matter which one. I've already downloaded it off screen, just to save a bit of video time, so here's what's in the zip. And really just extract it wherever you want your project to be. I'm going to put mine in this folder I have called Java Workspaces. And I'm going to go ahead and rename this 2D Platformer. It really doesn't matter. And there you go. So now all we have to do is import this project into Eclipse. So again, I went ahead and opened up Eclipse off screen just to save a little bit of video time. Haven't done anything, just opened it. And I'm going to create a new Java project. And I'm going to call this, same thing as before, 2D Platformer. And here's a little trick you can do with Eclipse. If you set the location, well, in this case it's right, but if you set the location to, in this case, Java Workspaces, wherever you just extracted the Dare engine to, and then type in the project name as whatever you just named your folder, then, then you can just click Next, and Java does, it's smart. It picks up and imports everything properly for you, so you don't have to do that. So there. And now, the only thing we want to do before we finish is go to libraries. Now, it was already smart and added the proper libraries by itself. The only thing it didn't do is add the natives. So, under Native Library Location, I'm just going to click Edit, Workspace, 2D Platformer, and under Lib, I'm going to select the native folder. And there we go. That's all you need to do. So I can just click Finish now. And now if I go to 2D Platformer, here we go. Whole project is in Eclipse. So I'm just going to go to Source, Engine, Main, and I'm going to run this to make sure it's working. And there you go. We have the Dare engine example scene. So, really this isn't much, just something to show you it's working. But if I press W, A, S, and D, I can move this little square around. And this also works with the arrow keys. And just to be fancy, if you happen to have a PlayStation 3 controller around, and hang on, I gotta plug this in, and you have drivers installed for it, and you plug it in to your computer's USB port, if I can ever plug it in, there, whoa, there you go. It picks up the input. Now it's off screen, so I'm just gonna, whoop, yep, there we go. So there, now I can control it with either the directional pad on the PlayStation 3 controller, or the left analog stick. And I realize this is sort of difficult to prove in a screencast tutorial, but I don't think you'd be able to really do these sort of fine-grained motions I'm doing really easily without an analog stick, so hopefully that's proof enough. And if not, well, take my word for it. I'm using a PlayStation 3 controller. In theory, this should work if you have other sorts of game controllers, like an Xbox controller or something. I have no idea what the buttons would map to, so it probably has some really weird controller configuration, but it should work. So, yeah. And that means the project's working. One more thing I'd like to mention before we go. If you'd like to play around with this a bit before the next video, because in the next video we're pretty much going to end up demolishing this example scene since we're going to start working on our game. So if you'd like to play around with the example scene a bit, get a feel for this yourself on your own, you can do that. The Dare engine is fully documented, and that means if I want to know what, say, I want to know what an entity does, I can mouse over it, and Eclipse brings up this nice little bit of documentation telling you about what that particular constructor does. Or let's say I'd like to know what this clear lighting function does. Again, you can mouse over it and it'll tell you. If you'd like something a little bit more formal and more complete, if you go under the doc folder and you see there's this index.html, if I drag this over into a website, then you have a complete web page of all the documentation. You can look by class. Let's say you want to know what the grid class does. Again, complete set of information, all the methods, everything. So there you go. Hopefully that'll help you if you want to play around a bit, or if you're just curious about how some aspect of the Dare engine works later in the series. So, hope you enjoyed, hope you learned, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll start actually doing a little bit of, well, game creation. We'll start working on this 2D platformer. Thank you, hope you enjoyed, hope you learned, and I'll see you next time.